You're listening to the Chopped Podcast, episode number 139. Hey everyone, welcome to the Chop Podcast. This is Friday, so I think that means it's time for FriChats.
FriChats.
Yes. Hi Cara, how are you?
Marly, I'm great. How are you doing?
I am doing so good. Sean and I are getting ready to go out of town for a little bit, so I'm really excited about that.
You have a little vacation.
Little vacation, yeah. We're every year we go to see Sean's parents in Bismarck, North Dakota, which actually, believe it or not, going north for the winter or summer is a really good idea.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I know.
I will keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think it's a good plan. But nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So for some reason, I think I have this like extra energy because there's all these things I have to get to do, get done before we leave, and I'm just like on hyper mode.
Yes, no, I get it. Your total business mode.
Yes, like all the things.
So then
all
you
the
can
time.
relax and be on vacation mode.
Yes, that's my plan. I'll be like, hey, Mom, I'm on vacation.
Hey, Mom, are you going to Jamaica? Oh, I thought.
Yeah, it's Jamaica, North Dakota.
Wow, I need to visit there.
We love to make fun of the accents there. It's so funny because it's in North Dakota.
It's kind of like,
Fargo.
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of watching Fargo.
Yeah. They say holy buckets. That always cracks me up.
Holy buckets. I think I might have to incorporate that into today's podcast.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Speaking of today's podcast, today I just love the topic we're going to talk about. So I'm so excited about it. Cara?
Okay, well, let's get started.
Okay, so it's called bug soup. Doesn't that sound gross?
Sounds disgusting.
Yeah, we're food bloggers.
It has nothing to do with what we usually talk about. So expand.
Okay, so we love to talk about the soulful side of food blogging. So here I am bringing up this topic of bug soup. Okay, so I read this, I think it was in O Magazine, and it was Martha Beck. She writes for O Magazine a lot.
Yeah.
And she was talking about bug soup. What she's saying is, okay, scientists decided to discover what happens when a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. And so they... some people call them cocoons, other people call them chrysalis. In the story, she called it a chrysalis, and they cut it open, and they expected to see something like a caterpillar slightly looking like a butterfly, or a butterfly that looks slightly like caterpillar, like some form of transition. But what they found instead was just bug soup. It was just it's like the caterpillar turned into the chrysalis, and built this chrysalis and just disintegrated.
Oh, interesting.
And it was from that bug soup that the butterfly is created.
So that's not what I would have thought.
I know. That's what they is exactly right. Wouldn't you expect there to be some kind of bug looking thing in the middle? Wouldn't you think that?
Yeah, that's interesting that it completely disintegrates into that.
Yes, a mess.
I'm flabbergasted.
I love this analogy for life because I sometimes feel like, okay, this is how I feel about success, Cara. I feel like success should look like that. Like I should have all my ducks in a row, and then I go from this to that to I am successful. And in reality, it's a little bit like bug soup in the middle of it all.
So not you, because I think this is a very common way of thinking, that success is more linear than just a complete roadmap of craziness.
Yes, it says we think it's just one straight line. In reality, it's a lot of zigzags.
Okay, so it's so interesting that you are bringing up this topic, because I was actually thinking about that, not necessarily in terms of success, but just life and the way things turn out, and and who we become based off of watching Game of Thrones. Because to me, TV speaks to me the most.
Yes.
But do you watch Game of Thrones?
I watched a couple of episodes. It's really violent.
It's very violent. You have to kind of get past that. It's
okay.
One of the best shows, in my opinion, on TV.
Get past that.
Yeah, and it's just brilliant. And there hasn't been like a season. Well, anyway, okay, that's so besides the point. For our next podcast, when we're reviewing TV shows, we'll talk about that. But it's really complex too, how like everybody is intertwined. And, this season, there's, I can't even tell you what the guy's name is because I don't even, oh, that's my child. Because I can't keep up with all of them. But this one guy has been sent to work in I guess it's like a university or, a library. And you can tell that like he's going to solve the problem, right?
Yes.
But up until that point, he's a little bigger. Everyone makes fun of him. He's smarter than the average person. And so in a time where they really look to heroes and warriors, he doesn't fit that bill. But you can just tell that he's going to play an integral part of like, destroying the White Walkers because he's going to figure out how to do it. And it amazed me that every move that he has made up to that point seemed like a failure. Like he couldn't stay at the wall or, he couldn't do certain things. So he got sent back home. All is leading up for this one moment right here where he's figuring something out. And it struck me because, some things happen in life where you're like, well, this isn't how I thought it would have been. It's not linear. It feels like a setback.
Yeah.
But it's those setbacks that tend to be what brings about future outcomes of what you originally wanted. It just looks a little differently. Yes. And so instead of getting discouraged over the way your life is turning out, there's a strong possibility that it was supposed to be that way.
Right. And that maybe you wouldn't even accepted the eventual life learning or lesson if you hadn't have gone through and done everything wrong,
Yeah. Yeah. Or what you think is what you've done wrong, because the reality is you're right on track, right?
Yes.
It's easy to see in a TV show when you're seeing like all the other lives and how they're all coming to the same conclusion and how he's going to, provide the answer to something. But it's a lot more difficult in your own life when it feels really lonely and it feels like you're not getting anywhere.
Yes.
So I guess maybe my follow-up question to this bug soup stuff, because I hear what you're saying. In the moment of transformation, we're kind of a mess. It's not beautiful.
Right.
How do you stay encouraged and how do you keep going? How do you keep going?
Well, I think back to a time when I think when things are exaggerated and really bad can be a better example, because like maybe in the day-to-day it can be harder, but let me just explain that. Okay, so I went through this period where I quit my job, and it wasn't like I quit under great circumstances either. I quit under like duress. Let me say it that way.
Yes.
Yes,
I get that. Yeah.
There was a lot of drama going on. There was a lot of tension and stress, and it was a very high stress job, and everybody felt the same way about it. So and I didn't really have anywhere because of the circumstances. I quit, and I didn't really have a serious plan for what I was going to do, and I just felt like everything around me was falling apart. All this, I had been very passionate about that job, and everything had fallen apart, and I was so discouraged, and I just felt like there were a lot of things going on. Even personally, I was frustrated. And I just imagined, I felt like okay, we'll just have to rate this one an R-rated episode, because I just felt like I was surrounded by shit.
Yeah.
And then I thought about that for a minute, and I thought, oh my God, what happens? Shit is like a manure. It's manure. It's like, it's fodder. It's fertilizer.
Can I cut in really quick?
Yes.
When I was getting my master's, the head professor would always say everything is fodder for the soul. And so before you even said fodder, that's exactly what kind of came to mind. And that really transformed the way I think about things, because you could either look at life and be bitter and say, why is this happening to me? Or you could
Yes.
see it as fodder for the soul and a time to grow. So
Right.
for me, the latter is always the better option because I can't handle wallowing too much
Yeah.
in the misery of that. But so anyway, that was just interesting that you said that. Keep going, keep going.
A little bit of wallowing is probably good. I think it spreads the
Sure, it's
manure
healthy. I think
around.
that's healthy. Yeah, but you can't just live in that.
Yes. Happy place. I can't live in the happy place all the time. But yeah, a little bit of wallowing was good. And then I had this, moment where I realized, there's great things that are going to grow from this experience for me. And I just felt it. I knew it.
Yeah.
I think though on a day to day, it's a little bit harder. Like, if I don't feel like I'm on a particular plan and what's going to happen, and I don't know what's going on in this moment, and I've got to get a blog post up tomorrow, and am I just, what am I doing here? What is my purpose?
That's like a constant question.
I know.
What am I doing here?
Well, you know what I think why we feel that way? It's because we're making this up, right? I mean, we are just, as bloggers, we are the creator of our own universe, right? We get to decide if we're going to post tomorrow or if we're going to be on Instagram or, we decide all that stuff.
Sometimes it just feels kind of meaningless though, too.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this is the perils of somebody who's a navel gazer like I am, where I'm constantly analyzing and, trying to come up with like, what's the point of all this? Especially when like every night I'm watching Vice News and I see the devastation that's happening around this world. I think,
Yes.
Does the world really need a smoothie bowl in the shape of an owl? I don't know. But I do know that it's what makes me happy and creative. I just am constantly struggling with how much do I put out there and what I'm putting out there. It's a thin line. So yeah, it is an issue of we're kind of coming up with this all by ourselves. We're setting our rules. But then the other part is like, there are parts of blogging I don't like and I don't really want to be a part of. Like that doesn't resonate with my own soul. It's not a part of the plan for me to become this butterfly. So you're absolutely right. And the more I keep thinking about it, it's like, so I have to determine what is, and then I have to fight for it every single damn day,
Yes.
I have to say, nope, I'm not going to become that because that's not me.
Yes.
And if that means that I don't gain as many followers, okay, then I have to be okay with that.
Right. Because I'm following, the plan that's laid out by my caterpillar, right? Like,
that's so hard. It's so hard to stick to your own plan and not look at somebody else's and go, she's getting great success with that.
I know.
Maybe I should do that.
I could do that. I could totally do that. But just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right. But will that stunt me more than anything?
Yes,
and that's
exactly.
just the constant question you got to ask all the time. I have to ask at least.
Yeah. This reminds me of a conversation we had. I think it was either the previous one or the one before that, where we were talking about ego. Because can't you see this, the story of the butterfly turning into the caterpillar turning into the butterfly, a little bit like the, how do I say this? Like the caterpillar basically gives up its life to become, it's almost like we could look at every day as a giving up of our life. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to completely let go of your identity as that to become something else.
Right.
Like we were talking about ego versus spirit. You're right.
Yes.
You're absolutely right.
In some ways that could be an everyday practice where we every day practice giving up our own ego and letting that go to be who we really need to be.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to my therapist about like the ego or whatever, and she kind of like looks at me, with one eye open, one eye closed, and she's like, ego's not all that bad either. And I'm like, what? No, it totally is. Everything's black or white. So, which I had to explain like my whole background of being a religious person, you know, a
Uh-huh.
super religious person, where we were taught to not trust your heart because it's faulty
Mm,
and, you know, you have to die to the ego. And she's
yes,
just like, maybe it doesn't have to be that extreme,
I agree.
which is a new concept for me too. But I think what you're talking about, the idea of bug soup, really changes the way I view when the dirty stuff happens in life. Even
Yes.
questioning, so like for me personally, I've been questioning how I view myself as a blogger and just everything that we've talked about, you know, that doesn't sit right with me in
Mm-hmm.
blogging. I can choose not to become that. And because of that, I get to, I think we already said this, I get to choose who I become because of it.
Right.
And it is going to look a lot different than I had thought it would. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen, I think, is my point.
Yes. But it may
Um,
not look like,
but it feels like
if,
it.
yes.
Sure feels like it, but it just means it's just a different path.
Right. And how beautiful is that, right?
I think it's really comforting, and it's nice to know that I'm going to be okay, and you're going
Right.
to be okay, and everybody who listens, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. The other story I want to tell about this, if we're following this whole, um, bug soup thing
Yeah.
onto its end, and that is the butterfly once it emerges. Well, there's another story there actually too. I've read that scientists, the butterfly has to really struggle to emerge from the cocoon, and so they actually would create slits in it to help it out. And when they did that, the butterfly did not do as well. It wasn't able to fly. It's almost like there was some process of
Oh,
having to go through
interesting.
that struggle to make it fly.
Completely relate to that. Yes.
Yes.
There's
Oh,
something about being the youngest child that everybody wants to kind of help the baby out. And speaking from experience of being the youngest for the longest time, my siblings and even my parents really tried to help almost create a safe space is what they thought they were doing, you know,
uh-huh.
and to help me not like fail at things. And probably in my early 20s, I had to yell at them and say, back off. Like,
Oh,
let me do
wow.
this. Stop treating me like I'm 8 years old because
Yes.
and I don't know if that's necessarily a conversation the oldest child has to have with their siblings of stop treating me like I don't know. But I noticed that like the more they try to keep me from experiencing life, the less I felt like an adult. I really did.
Yes.
And it wasn't their intention, but yeah, I totally get that. You
That you
have
have
to
to go through a little
you
struggle.
have
You
to.
you have to do things wrong in order to figure out how to do it, or you just have to emerge through the struggle. That's all.
Well, it's like what we were talking about last time. What's the best way to get over your fear of getting punched in the face?
Oh, yes.
Get punched in the face.
Yes.
We're not advocating that, you guys. But you know, even even a broken heart, being so afraid of love, you have to experience it because the moment you realize, you know what, I'm actually okay. I got out of this alive, and I'm better for it.
Yes.
Is probably the most inspiring thing to realize that I'm stronger, braver, and more courageous than I ever gave myself credit for.
That's really nice. I'm in a mastermind group, and we actually talked a little bit about, you were talking about, what is my smoothie bowl with in the shape of an owl? Is it with
Yeah.
the face of an owl? Does that even matter? And we actually talked a little bit about this yesterday, and the answer I got out of it, all of the discussion was, actually, it does
Yeah.
really matter because we are like a shining light in the dark. I mean, there is a lot of darkness
Right.
going on right now, and we can be that force of positivity and that shining light for other people. So let's not downplay that at all.
You're right. You're right. And that's part of, like I said, my navel gazing.
Yes.
It's too much sometimes and I think that's why I haven't stopped doing what I do, because when people just say, it puts a smile on their face, and that gets me
Yes.
going, and that's all I want to do. But
Yeah.
I guess the reason I say that is I see a lot of people kind of taking themselves too seriously. You know what I mean? And,
Yes.
and okay, maybe I'm taking myself too seriously, and it's like, just relax. It's going to be okay.
I got you. There's a balance between like, being really good at what you do and then taking that seriously, between also just, having some levity about it. Like we're food bloggers in the end. This is not curing cancer, but this is, but there still is importance.
Exactly. Like let's kind of slow the roll on trying to put me as a brand, because I'm not. I'm just a person, and I don't, and it's great if you want to be a brand. I don't. And so like, I have to really watch myself and trying to get too serious about,
I
but
get that.
That's part of figuring out who you want to be in this, and sticking to your guns and then fighting for it every single day.
Sticking to your guns and fighting for it every single day. That's so good. And I think it goes back to, I know I mentioned Megan Hill with the site Culinary Hill before, and I love that she wrote this like 3-page mantra with her big why and why she's doing all this stuff. And I still have not done that, but I'm going to, because I feel like for my days when I am not connecting with my purpose, I think that would really help me a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Because then the stuff that feels like just dark and depressing, you start to realize, wait a minute, that's not what I want to be anyway. So it's okay. I can let that go.
Exactly. And then also just to realize that we're all just bug soup when we're going through these problems and struggles. It's just a little bit of bug soup going on in your life. And just to know that good things come out of bug soup, like butterflies.
And everyone's going through it.
Everybody.
I think that's the best part. Like, you can look at someone's success and go, oh, it was so easy for them.
Yes.
But you don't know the crap that they had to go through and what they had to fight to get there. So mind your business.
I love it. Cara, I think we covered it. What do you think?
I do. High five.
High five. Right back at you. See you next week. Thanks for joining us for another episode of FriChats. We love chatting about the soulful side of food blogging, so we certainly hope that you love hearing it. You can learn more about today's show on the show notes page at chopped.academy/podcast. While you're there, be sure to sign up for the Chopped Academy newsletter so you'll be the very first to know about the exciting things that we have coming your way very soon. You know what? You inspire me, and I hope today's show was helpful and inspirational to you as well. Now go forth and be your best you.